Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. One more time to all of you, especially to the ones who are participating for the first time in today's session. Welcome to the second day of the 7th Expanding Opportunities Seminar of English Teaching. I am Maria Francisca Kelly Perez, and I speak on behalf of the organizers, Fundación Educacional Oportunidad, and Buku Education. It's very nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining us in today's session. We encourage you to be active participants of the seminar by posting on your social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram using the hashtag expanding opportunities. You are welcome to share selfies of the streaming, comment on the presentations, highlight key ideas, and leave your suggestions for future seminars. Let's see, we have some comments. Maybe there are some comments where people are from. Where are they connecting from? Santiago, hello Valparaíso, woo, international, some people from Argentina, Padre Hurtado, Maipú, everybody welcome to this amazing seminar on teaching English. A friendly reminder, the 7th version of Expanding Opportunities is being broadcasted by Zoom and live streaming on our Facebook fan page, Fundación Educacional Oportunidad. Share the knowledge. If you are on our streaming platform, please leave all your questions in the question section on the right of the screen. For comments, use the chat option. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can leave your questions there. We will have a round of questions after each presentation. To get down to business, today I have the honor of presenting a very special guest. She is Yasna I'm so sorry, I'm going to start again. She is Yasna Yilorm Barrientos, language didactics professor and practicum coordinator at Universidad Austral de Chile. Yasna holds a master's degree in education and TESOL, and also a PhD, everybody, in pedagogical science. Yasna's research interest has to do with the teaching strategies to develop social, affective, and communicative skills in children at social risk. Yasna has not only published her book called Let's Go for English in 100 Fun Ways, but also assorted articles regarding TEFL. Yasna and other professors from the same university program volunteered for Sename program. In 2018, she led the coordination of the program Playing with My Senses in English. She's currently leading a Fondesit project which aims at exploring teaching strategies to guarantee children's education and social justice. What a fascinating topic to present today. Please give it up for Yasna Yilorm.
Thank you so much for such a lovely presentation. Hello, everyone. I will share my presentation with you. Can you all see well? Super, thank you so much. So as the presenter said, I'm Yasna Yilorm, a teacher of English in Austral University. And today we are going to talk a little bit about inclusive education for social justice in the EFL classroom, development of social, affective, and communicative skills in socially vulnerable children. First of all, I would like to share with you a few words related to the teaching of English as a foreign language in our country. I'm going to carry out this part of the process of presenting in Spanish, because this is part of a columna de opinión that I wrote during the pandemic. Para los niños trabajamos porque
For children, we work because they are the ones who know how to love, because they are the hope for the world.
¿Quién no lo
Teaching,
sabe?
who doesn't know this, is before everything, a work of infinite love. Martin 1961, page 65. As the Cuban professor says, education is a tool of transformation, social transformation, that allows for the creation of strong human beings and also free people. Clearly, in our educational model, we still have not understood or exercised this pedagogical principle very well, which is basic for every society that is fair and inclusive. Children in Chile have not had the privilege to have a school that prioritizes before all their needs, their preferences, their sensorial preferences, their previous knowledge, their dreams, their strengths, their real well-being, so their fundamental rights.
According to the Children's Right Convention, we can see that children should grow up in a family environment, in an atmosphere of happiness, of love, of understanding, among the many other concerns that a child should have. Okay, this convention highlights concepts such as non-discrimination, best interest, views of the child, parental guidance, life, survival, development, freedom, protection from violence, abuse, and neglect, adequate standards of living for the children, leisure, play, culture, recovery from trauma, and reintegration, child labor, exploitation, and education. The latter, education, has or plays a crucial role in the construction of an inclusive society and in the development of healthy, safe, and happy children. Based on that convention, we could observe and analyze our own educational system. And as it says in this presentation, el Consejo Nacional de la Infancia states that
the National Council of
en Chile durante las últimas 2 décadas la política pública
in the last 2 decades, the public policy of Chile establishes that children are subject of rights. So they are citizens and they are social participants in a democratic context under conditions of livelihood that is well treating for them and also of physical and mental health, psychological, social, and cultural.
Contrast, between what the Children's Convention states, what the Consejo Nacional de la Infancia in Chile suggests or states as well, versus that information that is given by UNICEF. En Chile existe un 62.2% de las niñas.
In Chile, there's a 62.2% of children that manifest having been victims of psychological violence, 50.4% of physical violence, slightly physical violence, and 22.1% of serious physical mistreatment in their life.
It's also necessary, as part of this research at least, to make a connection between those pieces of information that we have found out and the concept of social vulnerability. According to the MIDESO, el Ministerio de Desarrollo Social in our country, la pobreza y la vulnerabilidad social se define como un fenómeno.
Poverty is defined as a multidimensional phenomenon that incorporates a variety of lacks of things, and that is not just determined by the income of the people, but it also influences in the access of education, employment, social security, housing, and also the fact of having networks and social cohesion. So there are also these dimensions that are relevant for the optimal development, psychologically, physically, and socially speaking.
According to this ministry, the pandemic also produced or increased the levels of poverty in our country. As you can see, we have here an increase moving from the 8.6% of people in this situation of poverty in 2017 up to 10.8% in 2020. Okay, so there is an increase. Why am I talking about the pandemic? Because the teachers we work with, those are teachers who usually work in socially vulnerable contexts, refer constantly to the pandemic as a social, cultural, and historical phenomenon that impacted the process of teaching and learning English as a foreign language. As a conclusion, and based on the information that we have seen, Chile is one of the countries in which children's rights have been violated to the greatest extent. We do have a 14% of children and adolescents who live in poverty in general terms, and this 22.9% of children who live in this multidimensional poverty situation. What really worries us is that Chilean children less than 6 years old have the worst mental health according to some international studies. And suicide has also increased in 200% in children between 10 and 14 years old. This situation has been extremely significant for people who have been interested in education, especially during childhood. And we have found out as well that some of the characteristics that represent this situation of poverty are negligent carelessness, deprivation of basic care, abuse caused by domestic violence, poverty, sexual abuse, alcoholism and drugs addiction, malnutrition, and overcrowding. Therefore, the analysis that we have carried out in my Fondesit project are based not only on social cultural categories, but also on inclusive categories, which could be the solution to some of the difficulties that we find out in the classroom. Social cultural categories include social vulnerability and inclusion for social justice. And inclusive categories mention the English learning process and the coexistence situation within the classroom, which is very much connected with this social situation of development that every child has experienced in those contexts. It is very interesting to listen to our teachers. That's why this project has mainly focused on analyzing their perceptions about certain situations. And one of the factors that they name is family factors and the lack of emotional self-regulation. Some of their opinion states, for example, that el hecho de tener que preocuparse de cosas que niños y
The
niñas
fact of having to worry about things that children should not worry about at their age, like taking care of their younger siblings and making fire. And also they say that they do not have an adequate food or heating, which are basic for the household, but and that are going to go in detriment of the students in any area of their lives, mainly in the school aspect. When you do not have enough clothes to be warm or maybe enough food to not be hungry, maybe one of the last concerns is to be focused in the classroom. That's one of the teachers' statement. Children are very exposed to things of adults, for example, as separation. And these are strong topics that impact them, that they do not know how to manage. And these emotional factors only also have an incidence in their performance.
That is how we can conclude, or science can conclude, that childhood trauma and health issues are very much connected. When you suffer from abuse, neglect, mental illness, substance dependence, incarceration, divorce, violence, obviously there is an impact on the physical and psychological development of the child. That's why you have a brain development damage in some cases, not in all the situations. You could also have immune system affection, hormone system issues, and even problems with DNA reading and transcription. Obviously, this doesn't mean that children who suffer trauma during childhood are not able to learn and grow up healthily and happily in their EFL classrooms. El deterioro de las relaciones interpersonales y los mecanismos de resolución de conflictos en aulas escolares chilenas, especialmente en los contextos que acogen a niñas y niños socialmente vulnerables, ha puesto en riesgo la escucha activa y cordial entre los estudiantes. Why is this reflection so important? Because our country is one of the most affected places in the world in terms of academic performance or low academic performance due to those levels of violence that can be found within the school. Students with these situations or these conditions usually have a very impulsive behavior. Sometimes they choose physical and verbal aggression to solve their problems. And they do have poor relationships with others, and normally they don't feel very guilty about what they do. They usually plan and enjoy this aggression process, and they tend to be very cynical, not because they want to, but because their previous knowledge is mainly focused on those situations and realities that they have probably learned at home, at school, in the neighborhood, and in all the places that surround them because of the segregation factors that we have in our country. So this research has proven that whenever you have this social vulnerability and social context, usually what we have is unsatisfied needs within the classroom, within this population of children in the EFL classroom. And this produces, obviously, some emotional disequilibrium and poor relationships between and among children, right? So they don't get on well so positively. Problems are solved sometimes through violent actions, and it is very hard for them to find positive solutions to their problem. And obviously, this has an impact on classroom management, which is called in this PowerPoint slide maladjustment of dialogical coexistence. And we do have difficulties in the learning process. So in here, what we have done is to prove that there is a significant correlation between social vulnerability and difficulties in the learning process. As you can see, some of the opinions that teachers have provided us, especially focus on these great differences that we find between public education and private education. They say that there is a tremendous gap between one and the other, and that there is a relationship between the social emotional difficulties that children face with the social cultural background the students belong to. And this, of course, is reflected in standardized tests. Here we can see as well that the lack of motivation is a principal issue at home, okay? And it is very much connected with those standardized situations that they find at school. Students are not motivated, or they are not motivated enough, because usually tests do not match their own needs, their own interests, and they do not usually consider their previous knowledge. So what happens is that they just don't answer according to the teachers, and obviously the results are very low. One of the principals of the schools in which we worked told us that critical incidents, which are those very difficult situations that you find in the classroom, are only the top of the iceberg. Yeah, when we start to go deeper and deeper into reality, what we find out is the real situation that students live at home. and the context that surrounds the children's family have been hardly impacted by difficult situation, by deprivation, by family problem, and by violence and discrimination as well. So what have we done in front of such difficult situations of the context that we have visited and the context in which we have tried to make a collaboration or a contribution in terms of not only communicative skill development, but also and mainly through the development of social and affective skills, is to believe that tenderness and children's development are very much connected in order to increase students' motivation, which is the main element in the acquisition chain, and see how tenderness can help us improve the process of motivation, the process of understanding the concepts, that the input that is provided in the classroom, and how it can also promote production in some way or another, obviously in a healthy and safe environment. The first thing that we realized is that in Chile, we usually focus on cognitive skills. Okay, that's a fact. Our main concern as teachers has always been connected with the knowledge students have to acquire in the classroom. But unfortunately, we have forgotten about reflective, about regulating moments, situations, and also about affective and motivational situations. And that is why we have considered the possibility to develop all of those dimensions and not only focus on cognitive ones. Social affective skills have, for example, provided a positive contribution to this transformation that we have been trying to carry out within this pedagogy of tenderness. What do we understand by social affective skills? Well, first of all, keep positive relationship with others, share feelings and thoughts properly, promote optimistic and peaceful states of minds, empathize with others, make good decisions, and solve conflicts in a friendly way. Our main process at the very beginning of this research was to go into the classroom and develop especially the listening comprehension skill in order for our students to feel more comfortable while understanding what was going on in the foreign language. But we immediately realized that those social affective skills were not developed to the point of being able to teach them listening skills and help them develop the linguistic skills that we are supposed to teach in the classroom. And one of the positive situations that we found out when we started to work on social affective skills and also on communicative ones, because English was always our main concern and was the means through which we could reach our students and through which we could develop social affective skills, is that emotional competence is not does not simply imply being aware of the fact that we have to develop or that we have to be aware of emotions and feeling in the classroom. It requires a process of education. It requires to incorporate social affective and emotional dimensions within the process. And it implies teaching, for example, what emotional awareness is, which is the first part of the story. I need to be aware that we have different emotions, that all the emotions are valid and significant, that all of us go through different emotions, and that it is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel upset. Okay. So apart from that, it is also necessary to work on emotional regulation. Now, what do I do with my emotions and how do I deal with them? in order to reach this emotional autonomy, which is hopefully the moment in which the child is able to decide on himself or herself how he or she is going to regulate that specific emotion. And this is a step to move towards social competence and towards life and well-being skills, which finally will facilitate coexistence within the classroom. Therefore, it was not difficult to make a quick connection with the concept of inclusion. In fact, considering social affective dimensions and not only cognitive one has to do with inclusive education for social justice. In here, we have seen that the 7 principles that Ainscow proposes are related to equity, participation, community, compassion, respect for diversity, sustainability, and of course, the right to education. And what do we understand by equity? Mainly our right to participate in the classroom. That's why participation is the next step, because first of all, I have this right and this capacity to access, okay? And then I have this possibility to say what I think and also what I feel. And where do I say it? Within a community of children, of teachers, a school community in which parents can obviously be involved, and where all the members of the community can participate. How? Through compassion. Yeah, there is no way we can construct an inclusive EFL classroom without being able to feel what other students and what other people feel, and being able not only to understand what happens to others, but also being able to feel what other people can feel and go through is what we call this love for humanity and this capacity that we have as human beings to communicate with others in a friendly and positive way. This obviously implies a respect for diversity. Diversity is understood in here as a place where everybody is different. Yeah, labeling is not part of this process, because through labeling, what we do is to discriminate, even if we don't want to, even if our purpose is not to discriminate. Labeling in some way or another will tell us, well, this child has this difficulty or has this illness or has this treatment. What we want to understand is that every person in the class has a special need, that everyone has special interests, and that the teacher's job in here is to respond, of course, to those different needs. How are we going to do it? Through teaching practices, inclusive teaching practices that are different, okay? That provide the possibility to develop different senses in the classroom, to use all our senses, activities which move from games, songs, music, arts, also painting, handouts, of course, as well, in order to always maintain this principle of sustainability. Everything we do in a class is for protecting our environment, the quality of human relationships, and the communication between and among people. And obviously, all of those principles can lead us to this conclusion. We, as inclusive individuals, have the right to education. Inclusion as a new paradigm is one of the factors that teachers also told us in the interviews. What they say is that they see that implementing more innovative educational strategies is not an easy thing. Usually, teachers, students, the community, even parents have difficulties to face new situations. And what occurs is that sometimes children tell us, when we ask them, what did you do or what did you learn? No, nada, no jugamos. ¿Qué vieron? Nada. ¿Qué aprendieron? Nada.
You ask, what did you learn? What did you do? And they say nothing, nothing, nothing. And some teachers
adjust their way of teaching. This information is telling us that as a society, as a school community, we are not ready yet to understand what inclusion is about. And therefore, we need to teach it from the very beginning. And this has to be within the community. It cannot only happen in one classroom. Es difícil, dice una profesora. Tengo que trabajar.
It is difficult, says a teacher. I have to work for everyone and respect everyone as a teacher, for everybody to understand, for everybody to develop skills. In a classroom where I have 3 children with discipline problems, 2 with Down syndrome, and 1 with schizophrenia. So, of course, you say, okay, you have to work for everyone and you just do it. But when this means justice, then you associate it fair for everyone. There is a part of attitude also from the students.
Happiness and better opportunities. All of us can reach the goal. And this is one of the teacher's reflection. If we all work for inclusion, first of all, let's think about happiness and about different opportunities. Maybe our students will not all of them will not be professionals. This is what the teacher says. But they can be technicians, and that's fine. It's perfect. It's another way of being, of living, and of understanding the world. Obviously, this implies, as we said before, since we haven't still, or maybe we are in the process of understanding what inclusion is, to retransform the process of teaching and learning English as a foreign language. And it's necessary to keep in mind that a process is about cultural and human components, okay? The objective of a class, the methods, the contents, the resources, the assessment part need to be connected one with the other. And all of them need to be focused on inclusion. The same things will happen with the human components, the students, the group, the teacher, the school community, and the family. If all members of this process work together towards inclusion, this teaching learning process will become more active, more systematic, and will finally reach its goal through the objective, which is obviously to communicate in the foreign language. In an environment which promotes diversity and which promotes inclusion or inclusive education for social justice. Obviously, methods need to be adjusted in order to this or in comparison with the objective, and contents which are not only composed of knowledge, but also of values, of emotions, of feelings, skills, and ways of behaving in society must correspond one with the other. Yeah, resources also need to be very coherent with the other parts of the process, and in such a way assessment needs to be fair and consistent and needs to have a close connection with the objective and the other elements of this process. The first thing
Hola, mi nombre es Juan Emilio y a mí lo que me gusta.
The first thing that we realized in this research is that children's interests, needs, and sensory preferences need to be heard. Okay, they are the principal components of this process, and interest, as we said before, is the main part of this acquisition chain. There is no acquisition if there is no interest. Therefore, I'm going to invite you to listen to some of our students in Valdivia and understand how they perceive education, and specifically inclusive education. Oops.
Hola, mi nombre es Juan Emilio y a mí lo que me gusta del colegio es la asignatura de artes visuales cuando dibujamos y pintamos con témpera. Hola, mi nombre es Cristóbal. A mí lo que me gusta es que los profesores nos gritan tanto y que enseñan muy bien. Hola, me llamo Joaquín y a mí me gusta el colegio que podemos que tenemos educación física y me gusta hacer deporte.
Hola, mi nombre es Sofía Paz y a mí lo que me gusta más del colegio es estar con mis mejores amigas, Laura Subiabre, Agustina Santibáñez, Antonia Velázquez, Javiera Pérez, Pía Carreño y Héctor Beltrán. Y también me gusta mucho música.
Hola, mi nombre es Trinidad y lo que más me gusta del colegio es que puedo contar con todos mis amigos. Hola, mi nombre es Beatriz. A mí lo que me gusta del colegio es que hay recreo, que puedo jugar con mis amigos y que mis profesores me ayuden. Hay segunda asignatura del colegio que es música. Que los niños tengan más cuidado en los recreos.
Que pueda ver a mi hermano en todos los recreos.
Que todos los recreos sean largos y que podamos venir con ropa de color. Que el colegio sea más colorido, que haya un espacio para cada curso de básica, kinder y cuarto medio. A mí me gustaría que en el colegio sea más grande para que aquí también pudieran estar más niños integrados y que haya más mesas para conocer más gente.
A mí me gustaría que hubiera en el patio más juegos para jugar. Me gusta estar en el colegio porque tengo mis amigos, son como mi familia. Me gusta estar acompañado, me gusta estar en los recreos con ellos. Le agradezco a todos los profesores que me han enseñado. También me gusta aprender a lo máximo. Un 7 me gustaría sacar. Me gusta también lenguaje, es una materia que me encanta. Tengo mucha experiencia y es lo que más me ha gustado del colegio. Conocer a mis compañeros por primera vez es como que mi mundo cambió.
Okay, as you can see, the main concerns of our students is to meet people, to share with others, to play, to have bigger table, bigger spaces. And usually their opinions are very much connected with all the subjects that are not usually considered the most important ones in schools. Arts, physical education, and also painting, technology. All those spaces are important for them. And if we pay attention to the kind of actions and interests that they have, those interests are moments in which those children have the opportunity to express their feelings and emotions. So what they are asking us, in fact, is that we provide moments and spaces for them to be able to say what they feel and what they think. Within this process, I proposed a new definition for the listening comprehension skills, which is, in fact, based on the one that proposes the Ministry of Education, but I try to suggest a new component, which is this capacity that teachers have to provide a listening input, but an input that can be understood. That is to say, not only defining the listening skill as this process of hearing and receiving, perceiving, and understanding the messages, but also this capacity to provide as a teacher, messages that can be clear, that can be contextualized, and that can be interesting for the students, and that can consider their age, their social cultural background, and also psychological characteristics. What really worried us was this possibility to provide a happy place in which our students mainly could develop their strength in order to promote and develop their self-esteem, a space which could help them express their feelings and emotions, where teachers could work hard on values and critical thinking. Why? In order to develop our students' personality, and not only their linguistic skills, as every course in English should promote, right? In here, the personality is what really concerns the teacher, okay? And when we say personality, it's because we are thinking about cognitive dimensions, but also social, affective, and communicative ones. Just as an example, I can share with you one of the teachers' perception about inclusive practices. And we can see, for example, the last one. Si yo fuera mamá y yo veo que mi hijo sale feliz de la clase.
If I were a mom and I see that my child goes out from class very happy, telling me what they did, then I say, oh, okay, this is a good school. The teacher is good. They are having fun and they are understanding as they should.
Knowledge is not the only or the main concern that parents and teachers have. So we started implementing all kinds of activities that were based on the students' needs and interests. As you can see, games outside in nature, lots of multisensory teaching materials were provided. We played games. We also played, specifically in this case, Chilean games, or games that students know about, with materials, with musical instruments that they know and that belong to their culture, but also to other cultures. I mean, the idea in here is not to prioritize one culture over another, but to expose the many differences that we can find in this wonderful world in which we live. We also worked a lot with our hands, with our ears, with all the senses, touching, smelling, feeling. And one of our results was this program, this social educational program that we designed for our students, not only, as I said before, to acquire those skills, those linguistic skills that our students need to develop, but mainly for them to become good individuals, good participants, to become citizens of the country in a proud and positive way. How did we do it? Through the development of multisensory and playful workshops that were planned in the following way: self-care and achievement motivation, citizenship and critical thinking, and peaceful problem solving as the main topics of our units. And within those units, we talked about recognizing ourselves. There's a unit, for example, which is called I love myself so much. Another one which is called I communicate with others. Understanding from this perspective that loving yourself is the key point in order to have a positive relationship with others. Citizenship and critical thinking, Chile and me. Can I participate as a child? Yes, you can. You are a citizen of our country. What is your opinion and what is yours? I enjoy democratic relationships. And finally, me and the others, or me and other members of the community, welcoming conflicts or welcome conflicts. I recognize my needs and I also recognize other people's needs. And the invitation is, let's play together. Laughter therapy was one of our main strategies. We use this therapy to alleviate pain and stress to improve personal well-being, develop self-esteem, empathy, positive attitudes, good relationship, cooperation, creativity, among other benefits. The laughter therapy is not necessarily connected with the fact of laughing all the time, but it is mainly related to this positive attitude that we have in life, right? There's capacity to show happiness, to smile, to invite children to participate and play, and to tell students, I'm here for you, okay? And I'm happy to be here, and I want to teach you, and I'm worried about you, about your concerns and your interests. And based on that, I will offer an inclusive class. Paper. And now I'm going to trace it. Okay, look at this. I'm here. That's it. You see? So we have 5 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Thank you so much. Now I would like you to join these 2 lines. Very good. And you need to draw an eye, 1 eye. Excellent. Very good. And a mouth here, like this. A mouth. Your mouth, yes. Very good. Oh, okay. Some, maybe here you can draw something to decorate. Very good. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video. Art therapy was also of great help. I'm going to show you a video. Okay, go ahead. And let's see what happens. Oh, wow! Another one here. Great job! Beautiful! Congratulations, give me 5. Very good. Yeah, it's yellow. Yellow and black. And your hands? Show me your hands. You have yellow and black also.
Good job, everyone.
Magic was also extremely used in the classroom because it allowed us to develop gross motor skills, but also to regulate emotions. Here you have an example of one activity based on magic. Abracadabra, patas de cabra,
Make the egg fall into the water.
Those are short examples of activities that we carried out with them. Games are an important part of the process for all the reasons that you can see in here, but mainly because games improve human relationships, and they help us in some way or another develop students' personality and develop their creativity. In here you have an example.
2, 3, 4, Fabian, I said 5. Remember the alphabet, okay? Yes, and come here, okay? So, we have 5. Can you say 5? 2, 3, 4, 5. 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So when I say 5, yeah, 8, 8.
In here, that's a spider. Excuse me. In here, what you can find out is a strategy that allowed us to develop critical thinking in students and invite them to reflect and also provide their own opinions. It's a spider. How do you feel? Angry.
Yes, you're afraid.
Afraid. And you? Afraid of spiders. Ooh, anxious. How do you feel? What is it? You feel angry. Very good. Angry. Good. As you can see, children are able to not only see what is shown to them through a picture, which is what they can understand, okay? But they have the opportunity to say how they feel, yeah, and to write it in a magic board that they can erase and decorate as many times as possible. So even multisensory teaching materials play a role in here for students to express what they think and what they feel about the pictures that they have just observed. Here, I want to show you an example of the importance of music. Those children are Cuban children, sorry. And I worked with them in a classroom in July, and they prepared this lovely song for the class. As you can see, music is important. It makes you feel powerful. It gives you this opportunity to move and to express what you feel and think, not only through words, but also through rhythms and movements.
One, two, three. Hola, 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 ¿cómo estás? Yo bien, espero que tú también. Hello, 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 how are you? I'm fine, I hope that you are too.
Thank you. In here, what I would like to share with you is the perception of the child when we bring those multisensory teaching strategies to the class. And why have I chosen this opinion? Because the child makes a reflection which is related to affection. And let me tell you that one of the things that she appreciates is the following.
This is the best experience ever, because the teachers are sweet with all of their students, and you're the sweetest one teacher in the world I've met.
You see? So why is this experience so important? It's the best that she has ever experienced. And why? Because teachers are sweet. Yeah, they are not telling us that teachers speak English so well, that the contents or the knowledge is fascinating. It's because teachers are sweet. And then she emphasizes on the fact that the teacher that she has just had is the sweetest person on earth. I won't be able to share with you all of the children's voices that I have published in an article together with my colleague, Dr. Elizabeth Martinez, but I will share with you the article so that you can have the opportunity to read all the results. But in this article, we can see how students see games as a means of entertainment and personal satisfaction, as a learning process, and as a conceptualization of sensorial experiences. I liked Kachipun because it's entertaining, just like in English. It's fun, and I found it cute. What we can also see is that students, while giving their opinion, makes us reflect that there is also a social affective meaning in their answers. They see this right to participation, they validate other students' opinion, and they express positive emotion in regards to what is happening. And there is also behavioral conditioning from positive reinforcement. Let me share you one opinion so that you can understand. It says, I found it a didactic way to learn English since it is not easy. I wish we could always do classes like this. We would entertain ourselves and learn a lot. Another opinion that I would like to share with you is the following. The student says, I liked it because Fernanda was the best English student of the week. So the student is able to share with other students and understand the importance of others in the classroom. Okay, I will share with you, as I said, the different results of my research, but I would like to finish with this beautiful message that I got from the Escuela Hospitalaria, where we also worked with some workshops and multisensory teaching strategies. The student says, thank you very much for teaching English and for showing us that everything is possible. I love you. In this message, there is not only this intention of saying thank you for being here, but there is also this understanding of the importance of teaching English. So that's why she's grateful. Yeah, thank you for teaching English. But she is also grateful because we have been able to tell her in some way or another, through the help of these strategies, that everything is possible. This is such a significant message, especially coming from a child in the hospital who has a disease and who usually doesn't see the world in such a positive way as we do. And finally, she finishes her message with this maximum expression of love, which is, I love. Thank you very much. I will leave you this final slide, which maybe could help us to reflect or ask a few questions and work on what doubts or concerns you may have as an audience. Que me cuadra de lo que hemos dicho, que reconozco como avance en mi aprendizaje y que me queda dando vuelta. Maybe it could be helpful and useful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasna, for your inspiring presentation. We have been receiving countless questions from our viewers. Let's make the most of our time and start with the first question. Camila asks, how can we teachers help our students with these problems and take care of ourselves too?
Excellent question. I love it. Because it is not possible to teach others how to take care of themselves and how to communicate with others if we as teachers are not aware of it. Yeah, so that's why inclusive education is fundamental, not only for children, but also for teachers, especially teachers who are immersed in a system who does not allow them to express their emotions and to take good breaks and relax. The good and positive thing about inclusive teaching practices is that they help not only the child, but also the teachers. Designing and implementing multisensory teaching materials also make a contribution to the development of the teachers in terms of understanding what their children really need and are interested in, and therefore avoiding difficult situations such as critical incidents. Those strategies are also very helpful for preventing difficult situations in the classroom, which is of course necessary for teachers to feel more comfortable in the classroom. Lots of classroom management strategies that are fun and that are playful and that will call the attention of the students and will help the teacher to diminish this 100% participation that traditional education asks for. Yeah, in inclusive education classrooms, students will mainly listen, do, act, and think. The teacher is obviously a facilitator of the process of learning. So in here, teachers at the beginning will probably find lots of difficulties to build up their lesson plans, right? But as time passes, they will understand that those strategies are also meant for them to develop their feelings and emotions, and also to understand how children work and respond to them in a better way.
Thank you so much, Yasna. Virginia is asking, what specific activities can we carry out to promote emotional competencies in children?
I believe that all playful and multisensory strategies provide that opportunity. Obviously, when we talk about inclusion, the idea is not to talk about approaches and methods, but mainly strategies that can be useful for all students. What I mainly suggest is that you could have lots of different activities, short, not so long, depending on your students' attention span, and varied activities, okay? So that all students can have the opportunity, first of all, to understand the contents the way they think and analyze, and to participate in different activities that can help them to feel confident about themselves, but also to understand how other classmates learn and see the world. So I believe that's a possible way. I mean, through playful and multisensory strategies that are varied, short, lots of beginnings and lots of endings in the classroom. Not only one class with a beginning, a middle, and an ending, okay? But many, many beginnings, many middle parts, and many ending parts.
Thank you so much. Another question here says, can EFL maybe help students communicate in a better way than Spanish?
Could you please repeat the questions? I would like to listen to it.
Can EFL maybe help students communicate in a better way than they do in Spanish?
Obviously, that's one of the findings that we have in this research. We have found out that when your main language is so much affected by traumatic situations, sometimes you are used to communicate in a more violent way because that's the way you have lived. Those are the experiences that you have undergone through life. And this new language which has appeared and which is fun, which is interesting, entertaining, and which is also very much related to feelings and emotion will give you the opportunity to restructure, rethink, and develop your identity once again, or keep on developing it, because children are always working on their identity. But it's going to be a new possibility to understand how you can communicate your messages. And therefore, this information can be transferred to the mother tongue in an easier way, because you have acquired social affective skills to communicate in the foreign language. And those social affective skills are part of your own identity as a human being. So the movement from your the foreign language to the other language is going to be fluent.
Wow, that is a very interesting finding.
Yes. We still have to keep on working on it, because it obviously implies more research, not only in the field that I have been working, such as this social affective world and the different dimensions, cognitive and social affective dimensions, but we think that linguistics also plays a tremendous role in here. So we need to do research on that. Something happens with the foreign language in terms of discourse that help students to rebuild their identity, but we have to work on it, obviously. we have already found that it's positive, but now we have to do more research.
Amazing. Thank you. Another question, dear Yasna. Do you think that learning to express feelings and emotions in English is beneficial to create a safe environment, and why?
Definitely. When you understand, first of all, that there are different emotions and that it's okay to feel them, and that you are authorized, socially speaking, to express what you feel in a positive way and in the right place. Obviously, this will help you to communicate better in the classroom. And in this way, little by little, because this is a process, we haven't been able to tell other people that this can happen from one day to another. We have been implementing strategies for ages, and our work in Senami institution lasted approximately 3 years, right? And the results are not all positive in terms of good results, like we have found all the solutions and students have learned English in an excellent way. We cannot say that. But what we can say is that they have improved in this process of communication. And they are able, for example, instead of pushing others and saying bad words, they are now able to say, silence, please, okay? Or come here, through a bell ringing, okay? So we can see the difference in that aspect. And as soon as the child cooperates with the classroom management strategies and with the strategies for learning or acquiring the language, obviously classroom coexistence starts to work in a more positive way.
Definitely. Maria asks, do you think our Chilean context is part of a Latin American educational phenomenon as an educational crisis?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's not only about Chile, it's also about Latin America. And sometimes we can even say that some of the issues that we can see today in the educational system are part of everybody's countries. For example, the impact of technology on students, okay? However, there is one concern that is really necessary to understand as teachers, is that Chile is the leader in terms of all those situations, in terms of mental illnesses, in terms of violence in the classroom, in terms of the relation that we can perceive between violence at home, violence at school, and poor academic performance. In some situations, obviously, there are always students who obtain other results, and it's fine. It has to be that way. But Chile is a leader in those kinds of situations. And we have found out as well that there is a connection between the economic and political and social cultural system that we have and the methods, the strategies that teachers use in the classroom, and the way parents help or do not help in the class. But we are moving on, and that is the important point. We are becoming aware of the fact that we need to work on emotions and feelings, and that is already a tremendous finding.
A tremendous step. Yes. Juan has another question. He says, is it possible to include in our classes emotional development activities, considering our current social context, increasing COVID cases, for example, violent reactions from students and their families? What advice can you give us?
I think that everything you teach, everything you do as a teacher, everything that you say as a teacher need to be connected with emotions. That is the first understanding that we as teachers need to have. I mean, emotions are not apart from what we are doing in the classroom. Emotions are part of what we are as human beings. Therefore, they have to be present in every activity we do. in every action we carry out, in every word we say. If the class has a greeting section, when I greet students, I need to find out strategies that include all the students in the class. I need to have different greetings, like waving hands or hugging or kissing or just saying hello, or maybe some high-five actions or other possibilities. So I enter the classroom and I become an inclusive teacher from the very moment. And every action, every step, every word is or needs to be inclusive, and it needs to contain social affective dimensions. If my students are not being so grateful, well, I will bring a jar with messages in which students have the opportunity to say thank you to someone in the class. Or I can start the class by saying, thank you for being here, and thank you for having you as my students. Okay, I usually, when I start a course, I usually write cards for my students the first day, and I tell them in those cards, I'm happy to have you as a teacher. Thank you. And what they appreciate about that is that it's not only a surprise when they arrive and they see the card. Yeah, it's beautiful. I didn't expect it. But they also appreciate the fact that, for example, I wrote all the cards like not in the computer. I use my hand. Yeah, so they appreciate that, and they say, she took time. I mean, she's interested in me. She's using her own handwriting to tell me something. And those are the little things that they appreciate. And from that very moment, that very beginning of the class, I'm telling my student that education is not only about knowledge, but it's also about being human. And humans love each other by nature. We share. We need each other by nature. We should help each other. Yeah. The problem is that because of the development of society, the system in which we live, we have forgotten about the way humans are. But it's not going to be difficult to refine those skills, because it's part of our nature of being human.
Yes. And there is one last question, which actually is not a question. Virginia is asking for the name of the article. So could you provide some bibliography?
Yeah, of course. I have it here, and I will read it to you. Just give me a second. This is one of those are the two articles that I will share with you, are the last two ones that I have published with my colleague, Dr. Elizabeth Martinez, and I will also share with you my Facebook page and my page that you can find on internet, because it has lots of activities and ideas as well. Well, the text is called Educación y Nueva Constitución. We were asked to write an article which is related to the teaching of English as a foreign language, and to know about children's voices. Yeah, so I'm sure it's going to be very helpful for you. This is a book, so it has lots of chapters that can be interesting for you. But there is one chapter that is called Playfulness and Multisensory materials. I'm not sure exactly about the whole name, but and it has to do with children's voices. Yeah, and the other one maybe that could be helpful for you is one that is related to movement and the learning of English as a foreign language in the classroom. It has to do with the importance of moving in the classroom. So probably that will also help you. Let me see if I can find here the title. Well, anyway, I will share it with you because I'm just opening all the articles edition, so I don't want to take more time. But I will share everything, maybe with you, Francisca, or with Carla, and you can share it audience. Yeah.
And then Fundación can share it with all the community.
Super.
Thank you so much. This is all the time we have for questions, everybody. Thank you again, Yasna, for sharing your thought-provoking presentation with us. Thanks to all our viewers, too, for the company. In the meantime, please stay with us for what's coming next. So the second part of this seminar is for poster. Here I am again. The second part of this seminar is for poster presentations with attractive and important experiences to learn from. Today, we have two interesting topics. One related to the use of Chilean slangs to motivate students, and the other referred to the use of the 3 R's. Our next guest is Juan Manuel Guevara Holguín, a professor at Universidad de Playa Ancha. He has worked as an EFL teacher at Liceo Bicentenario de Viña del Mar and Instituto Chileno-Británico in Viña del Mar. Juan Manuel holds a master's degree in applied linguistics in TESOL, a master in educational assessment, both from Universidad de Playa Ancha, and also has a diploma in American Cultural Studies from Universidad de Chile. Juan Manuel is not only a member of Teachers Network from PIAP, but also a semi-finalist of, you won't believe it, the Global Teacher Prize Chile 2019. What an active professional. Today, Juan brings an entertaining experience to learn English, especially at schools. His work is titled Surviving Chilean Slang, a project-based learning activity to promote students' motivation and Oracy by creating a Chilean-English pocket dictionary. Please, Juan, the audience is expectant to hear about this. The microphone is all yours.
Welcome. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Okay, so first of all, thanks for the introduction. And I'm about to share the screen now. Okay, so once again, thanks for the introduction. Well, my name is Juan Guevara. I'm a teacher of English, and in today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about a project that was conducted in a semi-public school in the 5th region of Valparaíso. I will try to narrow down as much as I can regarding the amount of information. So if there's any question, please do not hesitate to ask at the end of the poster sessions. Well, the introduction was crystal clear, I guess. So I'm gonna get started by the context. And first, we need to understand that the context was this school, a subsidized school in Valparaíso. Its name is Colegio Patricio Lynch. The audience that I worked with were 7th graders. This class had 34 students, and the language proficiency was around A2 and B1, toward B1. So definitely this project, I strongly believe, could have been finished if they hadn't had this language proficiency that is defined as independent users. And a little bit more about the resources that are used at this school. Pretty much very similar as the rest of the institutions in Chile, at least subsidized ones, with 3 pedagogical hours a week. That implies 45 minutes each hour, and the traditional syllabus with the traditional resources resource that is given at the beginning of the academic year. I'd like to start off by saying that this school works well in terms of the English language. There aren't major problems. Nonetheless, there were 2 major issues that triggered the beginning of this project. The first one is that pretty much the activities from the course book weren't really appealing to them. And this is a typical problem that we need to overcome as teachers, in which we're about to start off a new unit, and the unit is about the airport, and learners hadn't traveled to other countries or abroad. They have never visited an airport, so there's no relation with their background experience. There are more of video games, social networks, music, and there's none of that on traditional course books. The second problem was the motivation, especially through Oracy. So learners really had a hard time using English, especially in Oracy type of activities, since there's this belief that English has to be spoken similarly as the English that they listen to in movies, series, or the teacher itself. So this activity or this project, I mean, the starting point was in the after reading of one of the activities from the course book. And in this after reading section, there were some questions about the use of bilingual dictionary. And some of the answers from learners regarding this question was that dictionaries, especially bilingual dictionaries from the school, were a little bit out of context. So they didn't find the entries that they needed to translate in the dictionaries. And the concepts or the entries from the Spanish side of the dictionary weren't really the ones that they used in informal conversations. That somehow forced me to carry out a questionnaire. So through this questionnaire, I explored in depth this perception that they had toward the dictionary. Additionally, I also explored the problem with motivation, since they mumbled, they provided some information, but I really wanted the objective data. And through these questionnaires, I have results. The results were that traditional activities, officially speaking, weren't appealing for them, and they felt very shy at using English. So this somehow helped me to create a driving question or driving questions. And there were two questions from the results. The first one was, how can I relate the contents to students' interests and context? Most of the time as teachers, we come up with those decisions. We believe what is the best option for them. But here we agreed on what we do after the data that is presented on the right side, in which learners felt that activities weren't engaging, and what type of activities can develop the use of Oracy. That is another aspect that I really wanted to tackle. And this student and the decision-taking process was pretty much agreed on both sides of the class. Both students and teachers decided to create a Chilean-English dictionary by learners. No, sorry. In order to start with this project, this project was conducted by using the PVL method, or the guidelines that are in this approach. And one of the suggestions is that this approach makes is that everything needs to be socialized and crystal clear for both the teacher and learners. So for this, there's a lesson plan sort of thing that is called the project planner overview that is shared with learners. And in there, you defined the objective, the key knowledge, the success criteria, a little summary of the project, what you expect from them, the resources, and it'll be the holy grail for you to keep on going with the process, with the construction of the dictionary in this case. For that, we used the 1 pedagogical hour on a weekly basis. 1 pedagogical hour, remember, were 45 minutes. And we had a class on Friday after lunch, which is a typical class, and nobody wants to teach nor learn anything. So this is the class that we picked. And in those short periods, we tried to look for entries in the computers lab. We by using internet, other sources of information, social networks, and we gather the entries that we needed. And the groups were formed approximately of 3 people, with the exception of one that only was formed of 4 people. And weekly, they submitted approximately 5 entries. So at the end of the first semester, a little bit more perhaps, I'm saying 6 months approximately, this is the total of entries that we have. 602 entries from Chilean Spanish and the translations, yes, or the explanations of these entries. This experience that it started off as a mere discussion about the relation of dictionaries with the needs of learners, it triggered this desire of creating their own version, and this version is the one that is visualized in this slide, in which some learners wrote the definitions, some others corrected the definitions that other students have written. Some other learners drew the illustrations. Somebody else worked on the book cover. So somehow it was a democratic process for making or giving opportunities for every single learner and every single type of ability that they have to create this dictionary. That is the answer for the first problem, the problem of the lack of cohesion between the activities and their needs or their interests. We picked this dictionary as an opportunity for promoting Oracy. So the copies that were printed, approximately 50 copies, they were shared with the school communities. Some of them are part of the inventory of the library, and some other copies were printed for every single student, so they have their own version of it. And during the second semester of that year, we invited learners to go to Valparaíso, and they had the chance of introducing some Chilean expressions to tourists who happen to visit the country and certainly will struggle with the Chilean Spanish. So we have some classes that we prepared for that occasion. In the first class, we worked with the typical part of the lexical items that we believed were necessary: question forms, phrases, formal, etc. Get to know type of questions. We also worked on explanations or giving the reasons of their choice, and a little bit of oral practice by role playing, that some learners were supposed to be tourists, some others students, etc. This is a very short clip in which one student is interviewing a tourist and getting to know more about him.
Hello, my name is Gabriel. Come on. Hello, to start, we wanted to introduce our service. We are from English School. The main object we have is to show our dictionary like this. Okay. With Chilean words. Okay. Go make 5 questions. Okay. First, okay. What do you like most about Chile? Oh, wow. I don't know. That's a good question. Their food. Yeah. They got very good food. Okay. Wait. Oh, wine? Wait. Well, they have a very good seafood industry. Okay. How did you think of the food of the country? How did you think of the? How do I rate it? Very good. Muy bien. Okay. What do you last like about the country? Like least. Least.
Okay. That was a little clip that I found that I believe was worthy of being shared. So the principal achievements of this experience were that certainly the students' motivation was increased. You can see this in detail in the poster that is uploaded on the website. And this activity helped them to understand that using English through Oracy, it is not imitating the teacher's pronunciation, the pronunciation of actors or actresses in movies or series. It's just about the sense of communication with each other. And there was another noticeable change, which was the motivation for the upcoming activities. So the use of Oracy increased in the next sessions, since they felt now that they had talked to tourists that came from English countries, they wouldn't have any problem by using English in the class, where there's a more controlled environment. So they felt more empowered of the English language. And the principal conclusions, just to sum up the major points, is that certainly motivation increased, the use of Oracy increased, and I believe that there are two extra things that somehow overlapped. The first one is the sense of democracy. As I have told you before, I strongly believe that this activity promotes the opportunity for learners to contribute to a project regardless of their abilities. Speaking English or having a good grammar, it is not the only thing that you require for talking to each other in English. Some people have told me that the dictionary is really interesting, that we should sell it. But I believe that the dictionary is just the object. What is important here is the process in which I saw a situation, I conducted a questionnaire, I gathered data, and based on the data that I gathered, I came up with a decision of creating, we came up with a decision of creating the dictionary. We could have invented perhaps a toy or another type of book or perhaps a poster, but the dictionary is not the focus. The focus is the pedagogical decision based on the observation from the class, that from time to time, we tend to filter out the comments from learners and we just skip them and we take other decisions that are totally different from what they really expect. Well, that was the presentation. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to this experience.
Thank you so much, Juan, for presenting this awesome experience. It's so important to relate to our students' interest in our professional practice so they can learn in a more enthusiastic way. Congratulations on that. There are a couple of questions for you, Juan. So the first one is, did the activity help students connect more with their own local identity?
Yes, totally. When I teach English, one of the first things that I mentioned is that there's the sense of identity that we shouldn't lose as we are acquiring a second language. I believe that in the near future, we will be talking about Chilean-English as we talk at the moment of American English, British English, or Indian English. So this experience helped them to understand that as Chilean, we need to preserve that characteristic and do not discard it, but using as a mechanism to communicate with other people.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you. There's another question here. First, this person says, hey, amazing project. So congratulations. What pieces of advice can you give me if I attempt to replicate your ideas?
Well, the main problem is that we live in a society, especially in educational communities, where teachers are forced to submit grades periodically. So there's the time that most of the time impeding them from making this type of activity, not this one, but similar activities or even better. The first one is that there's gotta be a plan. So planning beforehand, it's, I believe, essential. Talking to learners, but also making the school community part of it. Talking to the principals, other teachers, parents, yes, get them to know what the project is all about, and understanding that as a process, as an ongoing process, I can gather data and work the grading problem that most of the time teachers face, in which they have to take tests and invent grades from nowhere. So the principal advice is planning, anticipating all the problems that may appear, and talking to the rest of the school community.
Great. Yeah. Yes, totally. And that is exactly what the theory says, right? So you have just put it into practice. There is one more, Juan. Maria Fernanda says, huge experience to communicate in a real context. How do you think, Juan, the emotional factor help the results of your project?
Well, the teacher in the previous presentation talked a lot about emotions. Emotion is, I think, essential for any type of activity that you want. So I believe that there's got to be a close-knit relationship with students and teachers before even attempting come up with this type of project. Otherwise, learners will be making something without even being convinced nor motivated to do it. So it's always essential to try to talk to them, try to make them appreciate it, to make them happy within the class, trying to tackle any need that they may have before teaching content to them.
Thank you so much, Juan. Amazing to see your videos, the excitement of your students. Thank you so much once again. And to follow up with today's schedule, everybody, we have the last, but of course, not the least at all, poster presentation. It is called Recyplay, Learn and Play, another memorable activity to enhance students' learning. Remember to submit your questions so they can be answered at the end. Now, we would like to introduce and welcome Natalia Salas. She has a bachelor's in English Arts from Universidad de Chile. Natalia has been a speaker in the Linguistics Seminar and the American 18th Century Literature Colloquium at Universidad de Chile. She has gained teaching experience in both higher and school education at Universidad Tecnológica de Chile in La Serena and the Elqui Valley, respectively. Natalia reached the finals in the Experiencia Maestra in 2018, acknowledged by Fundación SM. With a stunning assessment in her portfolio last year, Natalia is currently working at Colegio Cervantino de Putaendo in Valparaíso region. This afternoon, Natalia brings us her work named Recyplay, Learn and Play. This poster accounts for the experience of working on a project that connects teamwork, problem solving, and learning about the environment using recycled materials. Students created a game fair. For more details of this enjoyable teaching experience, Let's listen to Natalia Salas, everybody. Here we go.
Thank you, Francisca, for your introduction. Thank you very much. And I'm going to start with my presentation right now. And there I'm sharing my screen. This is like a previous. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, there we have Recyplay, learn and play. So good afternoon to everyone. I'm so happy and glad to be here sharing one of the projects I developed with my 10th grade students. The name of the project we worked was Recyplay. Maybe the name tells you something about the activity I developed, but if it doesn't, don't worry, because through the exposition you are going to understand. So let's continue. First of all, I need to contextualize you in order you may characterize my students. So this is the town where the project begins, Putaendo. Putaendo is an ancient and picturesque town located in the 5th region, near to the city of Los Andes, to the north of San Felipe. One of its most important features is that almost 30% of the population from Putaendo is rural. So this is one of the main characteristics of my students, okay? Now, but what about the school? This is the school where I work. This is Colegio Cervantino. Colegio Cervantino is a small school with 25 students per grade, 1 class per level. So these characteristics give me the opportunity to get a deep knowledge from my students. I know their needs, for example, know their strengths and their weaknesses, and that all these characteristics leads me to create funny activities or the type of activities they like. And this is really important to encourage your students to learn English, having fun and activities that students like. So now, at this point, I suppose you may infer some of the characteristics of my students. So at first, I'm going to tell you that students from Cervantino School are closely connected to nature. And as a result of this, they are really interested in ecological matters. I think I haven't mentioned this before, but Cervantino is a certified eco school. That means students are really interested and know a lot about recycling and sustainability. Now, let's talk about the project. The project was linked to a unit of sustainability. So the first thing we know is that we had to develop an activity or project related to this main topic. So we started studying about taking care of the planet. We reinforced the idea of taking care of the planet and ways to stop pollution. And we started to ask to ourselves about what we could do to teach about environmental care and at the same time use English and promote the use of English in our school. So we established some guidelines. These are the most important ones. And the first one is the materials we use in our project must be recycled, and the activity had to be interesting, captivating, and encourage students to speak in English. So we promote the use of English. That was what we wanted to reach. Then, the following step, let's talk about it. At first, we decided we wanted to do, and that was to create a type of game like the ones in a fun fair, and that was our challenge, to develop a game to be shown at school. Then we defined the specific materials we would use to make our games. And finally, we define our goals. What do we have to do? And I also emphasized the teamwork because this is a real important point, because it's one of the characteristics a student from the 21st century should have, and also because as we teach English, we know that English is a language that is very obvious, but we have to take into account this because to generate communication, we need other person. So in that case, teamwork is very, very important because we work with communication. Okay, let's continue. And then we found our motto. Our motto was, one person's trash is another person's treasure. And that was our treasure, our recycled materials. What were the games? We have 4 types of games: awareness racing, feed and go, save the world, and garbage fishing. All these games were made, for example, with yogurt containers, plastic bottles, different types of plastic, different numbers of plastics, and cardboard, many different things, but all of them were recycled. Second stage of the process, when the games were ready, we had to test them. So, why? Because we need to check their functions. So my students were game testers and they had lots of fun, tons of fun. And when the games were ready, we thought, we should do something about it. And then we planned an event to show our work and the games. After this, we thought that we need to develop a survey in order to get the feedback from our users. In that way, we were going to review what we did. And finally, we had to evaluate our activity. We need an evaluation. We need the evaluation from other students, the users, and we need our own evaluation too. So the day arrived, and the students showed, explained, and gave instruction to participate of our fun fair called Recyplay. Now, what were the achievements? At first, students organized a real event and tested their English skills. That means they became events producer at first because they were organizing an event, and that they really want to have other events in other subjects related to other classes, so they were really, really motivated about this. The fact that they tested their English skills means that they use English in a real context, where other people understand what they were saying, the instructions they were giving. So that was really, really good for my students. This activity, it also removed the stigma of error. They were focused on learning and on the opportunity they had to improve their English skills. And that was really important because most of the time we do not know how to connect with the error. And in this case, we try to understand the error as an opportunity. And that was really, really good because that is helpful to many different and specific areas. Talking about their capabilities and talents, they show their English abilities, they can communicate in an effective way, they improve their self-confidence, self-esteem, because they were at first talking in a second language, they were showing words of their own creation, and they can improve their English skills. So that was really, really good to my class because they got a confidence they didn't have before. Other achievements, in my case, as I said before, self-esteem improvement, and that includes me, because when you work with motivated students, when you see your student working together in teams, and you can see their improvements, that helps to your own self-esteem, mine as a teacher, and the self-esteem of my students too, because they can use the second language in a real context. That is really, really important too. I also became a better leader because I encourage my students to give their best, no matter the mistakes or problems we faced, because we were learning, working, and doing things to improve our English performance. Other important point is that we were focused on solving problems, not in problems. That is very important because the students became problem solvers. And this is a good quality because we have motivated students, again, motivation, and this is really important when we want to teach or learn a second language. And also you learn strategies that you may apply in different contexts, because when you become a problem solver, now this new characteristic you have, you can apply it in many different ways and not just at school. This activity also encourages students to develop other activities in different subjects. That means they were really enthusiastic about event production, so they were really interested in working in many different subjects, many different topics. They absolutely believe in their abilities to produce an event, and that was really, really nutritious for me. Now, give me a second because I have a problem here. Finally, what were the impact this project had in community? At first, talking about the scholar community, this project was closely connected to the mission and vision of the school, because as I said before, this is an eco school, a certified eco school, in fact. So this event reinforced the ideas associated to it, as this was an activity connected to nature, and we are surrounded by nature because we live in a rural area. They were especially motivated and creative, and also they had to apply what they had learned in English classes. So we have a mixture, the Eco School, English classes, and we developed this great event. Talking about personal growth, I acquired new skills to teach a second language and improve the experience of learning and teaching. And I promote the autonomy in my students, and that was really important to me. And talking about the challenges we had, sometimes students felt a little bit insecure because they thought they were not allowed to communicate in a second language, but that was nutritious for me. Why? Because I acquired new skills related to group management. And that was fantastic, because sometimes we had problems to encourage students, and in this case, as I had to encourage students all the time, that was helpful because it gave me new strategies. And finally, we reinforced the most important skills in a student when is learning a new language like English, that is writing, reading, speaking, and that's all. Thank you very much. I don't know. That's all. Thank you.
Many thanks, Natalia, for providing us the possibility to know about your successful experience. You have shared a great initiative that not only helps students to develop their language skills, but also to raise awareness on the importance of caring about the environment. We would like Juan and Natalia to be with our audience for a while so we can discuss a bit further about your experience today. I was so excited that I already asked some questions to Juan, but now I'm going to have both of you together so we can talk a little bit further. Natalia and Juan, how did you feel today?
Well, I felt very relaxed. I was very happy to have the opportunity of reflecting upon problems that teachers have to face on a daily basis. And hopefully, if I cross my fingers, it may have helped teachers to find solutions for engaging learners into the contents that they're supposed to teach.
Thank you so much, Juan. And Natalia, did you enjoy presenting today? I don't know if Natalia is here right now. Dear Juan, there was another question that I didn't ask before. So could we go back to that? Tatiana has this question for Juan Guevara. What was the impact on your students beyond pedagogical aspects?
The other day, very good question, by the way. The other day was talking to some friends about the crucial needs at school communities, and we agreed that is methodology. Learners have access to any type of information nowadays through the cell phone. There's everything that they require, so the teacher is useless. We're some saying it. And the focus should be on methodology. I believe that this experience, more than the dictionary, focus on the methodology for solving a problem, identifying what is the solution, what is the manner that we're going to work, what are the instructions and the procedures that we're going to follow. And that should be, I believe, in the upcoming years, the aim of the educational communities, to pay attention to that, to the form in which learners can have access to different type of information and the sources of information that should be valid.
Yeah, thank you so much. How lucky are your students, Juan?
I don't really think so.
Thank you so much. All right, so it's time for a farewell, everybody. As we all know, everything comes to an end, unfortunately. We appreciate your participation and we hope you could take with you some knowledge and inspiring ideas for your own pedagogical practices. We are sure next year is going to be as novel as this. You will receive a survey to share with us all your comments, suggestions, and ideas. Also, in this survey, you will be able to request your certificate of participation in the seminar, so be sure to fill it in. Thanks a lot to all who experienced Expanding Opportunities 2022, to our presenters and the staff behind the scenes. There are so many people here who made today's event possible. This is Maria Francisca Kelly Perez. Good afternoon and see you next year on the 8th version of Expanding Opportunities. Goodbye, everybody.